Well, they called us and said that there was a problem, that the 124th Infantry Division was getting attacked and we needed to go help them. So then you have to get out and go. You don't know what you're walking into, really. Well, we get up to a point and we take a turn, and we get up there and all you see is decapitated heads laying all over. And you see the bodies laying on the other side and you're like, how could this happen? You know, what explanation does somebody have for this? And the guys that were there were like, we lost it. You know, they had lost it. And they're like, well, they were just driving down the road. We thought we was getting attacked from the bushes, so basically they just opened up on the vehicles instead of really concentrating on where the gunfire was coming from. We go and we look through the woods and through the area right there by the river. You don't see no casings from ammo, you might say. So obviously there was no firefight. Either somebody got real jumpy and they just took it out of control, or they really thought something was going on. You have people like myself that don't like seeing that kind of things, especially the innocent people when there's no reason for it. You have other people out playing soccer with the heads. I mean, you have people trying to run over them. I mean, and to me, it disgusted me because I can't believe people would do that to, it's a human body, it's a person. You know, they have family that love them just as well. They have mother, father, children, whichever.
I don't care what people in the States would call me. Raping prisoners, shooting ambulances, bombing civilians, and burning cities is not my idea of honorable duty. So after speaking with my commanding officers and asking for a discharge, I made the decision to come to Canada after that request was denied. My hope is that the Canadian people will support me for the same reasons they will not send their own troops into Iraq. Thank you for listening.
Thousands of young Americans have been leaving the U.S. military, refusing to participate in the war on Iraq. Some are seeking refuge in Canada, in the same way that Vietnam War resistors did years ago. Between 1965 and 1973, 50,000 Vietnam War resistors were welcomed to Canada. The war resistors seeking sanctuary in Canada today are a small but growing number. To stay, they need the same provision that the government of Pierre Trudeau granted to opponents of the Vietnam War.
We do have an obligation to be Canada, and we do have an obligation to live up to the best of our traditions. And I think one of the best of those traditions, one that has benefited me personally and many other thousands of people, not just Americans, by the way, is the one where that Pierre Trudeau articulated when he said Canada should be a refuge from militarism.
Even before the attack on Iraq began, 62% of Canadians opposed the war, and 65% opposed Canadian military participation. The Canadian government, in turn, refused to join the war on Iraq.
If military action proceeds without a new resolution of the Security Council, Canada will not participate.
The war is illegal because there are only two grounds on which a war can legally be fought. One is that it's in self-defense. And self-defense doesn't mean there may be a threat to you. Self-defense means you're under attack. And the United States was not under attack. There was no attack imminent. Okay, that's one ground for the legality of war. The second ground is it's authorized by the Security Council of the United Nations by at least a majority. This got 4 votes out of 15 in the Security Council.
The entire war in Iraq is lawless and illegal from the very beginning. It was based on lies. It was condemned as illegal by Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations. We have multiple reports from returning soldiers talking about war crimes in Iraq. We've heard it from Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, the Red Cross, about systematic torture within Iraqi jails. We have seen civilian targets, hospitals being attacked, emergency health clinics being attacked. I personally saw ambulances riddled with bullets with U.S. artillery. These are all war crimes, targeting civilians, targeting medical facilities, shooting at checkpoints without warning. All of these are war crimes.
A war that is not fought in self-defense, and is not authorized by the Security Council, is a war of aggression. A war of aggression is the supreme international crime, according to the Nuremberg Tribunal.
In 1946, the Nuremberg Tribunal on Nazi War Crimes established the precedent that individuals have international duties, which transcend the national obligations of obedience imposed by the individual state. The Pentagon estimates that over 5,500 U.S. military personnel have gone absent without leave, or AWOL, since the beginning of the current war on Iraq. War resistors in the United States have been court-martialed and given sentences of up to 15 months in military prison.
I wanted health insurance, steady pay, and I wanted money for college.
As a kid, I always wanted to be in the U.S. military, so it's something I always wanted to do. So when it came time for me to sign, or when I was of age, I gladly signed up. I was very patriotic, and I thought that was me, that I wanted, I was the guy who wanted to sort of die for his country if the cause was right. So that's why I joined.
I did have this notion in my head of being a good guy and fighting for a just cause, so that's why I was willing to go into a combat job, so to say. I had this idea in my head of being the good guy. So once they started the Iraq War, and after it had been going on for quite some time, and it started to come out that basically they sent us over there to die for lies and false pretenses, that image in my head sort of was shattered, I guess you could say.
If you're fired upon in a busy street, you open fire on everybody. And I asked my superior, I said, well, what about the innocent people left in the street? And they said, well, they're all Iraqis. If they're there when it happens, they're not innocent people. Where cars are coming down the street, we're turning cars away, their families, but one of the cars doesn't stop, and it pulls in front of me, and my superiors, soldiers are freaking out, they're yelling fire, and I'm yelling, trying to say no, 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 and my superiors asked me why I didn't fire, and the window rolls down, because they had tinted windows, and there's two kids in the back, 10, 8 years old, and the mother and father in the front. At that time I gasped, I was like, oh, so I did the right thing. I could have killed that family. And they turned to me and said, no, you did the wrong thing, and next time you will fire or you'll be punished. And it was just thinking that, they want me to kill innocent people. It's one thing to kill a military person or I guess what they call them insurgents, but I just couldn't kill a child or a mother or a family. I have a family, I have sisters and brothers. Just kind of stunned me that they were asking me to do so.
A week later, we shot 200 artillery rounds in the Joff, cannons. And I was talking to the superiors, they told me that we had killed a couple hundred people. And I was, what, insurgents or what did we kill? And they go, we don't know, we just count the bodies. And this is downtown Joff, big city. And now my hands weren't clean anymore. Now I took part, I had killed innocent people.
I can give you the scenario of raiding a home, which to me was a real big thing, because what you do is, let's say you go in always at nighttime. Could be any time from when I guess dawn to dusk. I mean, it could be any time in that time frame. Is what you do is you usually take civilian vehicles, or you go with tanks. You go up to a person's home. 90% of the time you take C4, and that's what I was trained as, explosives and landmines. So you take C4 and you put it on the door and you blow the door completely off. Then you run in with about 7 people, and what you do is called clear each room. You take women and children and men, you put them at gunpoint until you rip the man then they go outside, what we call zip cuff, which is just basically